Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I'm one of your hosts, Sammy Kinnison, joined by Angela Belford. Today, we have actually a follow-up conversation to a conversation that Angela had previously. It's actually turned out to be one of our most listened to episodes. It's Okay to Die with Nathan Wainwright. And I don't actually want to tell too much of the story. Angela, why don't you give us the setup of this follow-up conversation?
Yeah. So when we had Nathan on the podcast in, mid-March, he was told by his doctors, don't go on a spring break trip with your family. And he didn't feel like going on a trip. And because you could likely, die on that trip, that is how imminent it was. And so we had a conversation about it's okay to die. And he was not planning anything more than 10 days in advance. And a week turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4. And the next thing you know, he and I are like, oh, you made it to the restaurant opening for the new Brazilian restaurant. That's exciting. You made it to Easter. Wow. We had no idea you would make it to Easter. And then suddenly he started not only not dying, but started feeling so much better and was able to attend a baseball game with our church. And he came to my birthday party and he was like feeling significantly better. And so finally went to the doctor at the end of April and got a new scans. And the doctor was pretty emphatic. The first one, his 3 doctors, the first one, and he tells a little bit more about this, was like, no. The fact that your carcinomatosis is not draining fluid, they had put in a port because he was draining like 1 to 2 liters of fluid a day, went to nothing. And so essentially the carcinomatosis resolved itself, I think is how he talked about it. And then his scans showed, though, that
Which, by the way, it doesn't happen. Like carcinomatosis it's like
the end.
He said it's a one-way street.
Yeah.
That he was then going backwards down the one-way street.
Yes. That is like, and he discusses in this, like the minuscule chance. Literally the first doctor he saw is like, no. I'm telling you, this is a miracle. This doesn't happen. And so he wasn't willing to get real excited until the scans. The scans did show that his tumors had continued to grow when he stopped treatment, which actually wasn't completely bad. This is my perspective, maybe not his, but because then because it was a type of tumor that the cancer medicine had previously worked on holding in check, then he could go back on that treatment. And so anyway, it's shocking. And so we talk about, he and I visited about like, okay, well, I guess we have to have a follow-up episode because you didn't die. And so the episode, he said, I've got an idea. I think it's okay to live. And so we kind of talk about what does it look like to go from this, like, I'm preparing for death and I'm preparing for my own obsolescence and to now, he completely ended every part of his life. He closed his business. He closed his bank accounts. He planned his funeral. He paid for his funeral, planned it and everything. And now this week at church, he was playing guitar and is like, now what? And so it's interesting because he and I talk about the idea that there could be people that are in the audience that felt like whatever situation that they are going through, it may seem completely impossible. It may seem like there's nothing good going to come of this and that there's no way through. And that potentially in the midst of that, he's not been cured. He has not been given a complete pardon from cancer, but he has a stay of execution. And now he's back in the same boat as the rest of us. He has no idea when he's going to die. And so it was a very fascinating conversation. Spoiler alert, he talked to a pastor with a master's in theology about hope and the struggle and the scariness of hope. It was really, really insightful. I hope that people enjoy it. It is maybe even, I don't know, I'm just so blown away. I have no idea. I can't even tell you how blown away that I am to have been along this journey with him, because I've been hanging out with him weekly to give his wife a break, and it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, and this was not an episode that we have planned for you all. This was not on our scheduled list of upcoming episodes, because we didn't know. We had no idea. This is one that we're sliding in because we want to make sure that we have this good conversation. And also, we don't know what's next.
We were so
maybe
sure.
there's part 3, but I don't know. We have no idea what happens next.
Well, we were so sure that we even invited our grief counselor friend on. Our therapist that is a grief expert on how to talk to children about this. This is real, y'all. This was not just kidding. I'm not really dying. This was, you paid for your funeral, for goodness sakes. So, anyway, hope everyone enjoys it.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, here's the conversation with Angela and Nathan.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I'm your host, Angela Belford, and I am joined by a repeat guest. If you clicked on the link to press play, then you're probably a little bit curious about why we have, how this happened. So a few months ago, weeks, I guess, it's months now. A couple of months ago, we had on the podcast a guest called Nathan Wainwright, my friend, and we talked to my friend because he was dying. And tonight, Nathan is here with me again because he's not dead yet. Remember, the warnings still hold on morbid humor. Angela's still going to say the inappropriate things. And so we decided to get back together and kind of talk about what's happened over the last 8 to 10 weeks and get an update, because you're still here. So Nathan, tell us what's going on.
All right. So again, at the end of February, to sum up real short, I was given anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks to live. My cancer had progressed to the point where my body was eating itself, and they said nobody comes back from this. And then it stopped. And we don't really know why it stopped or how it stopped. But beginning in early April, the fluid buildup, which was the indication that we knew there was something, started to drop off precipitously. And I started feeling better, and symptoms started going away. And suddenly, instead of feeling like I was dying, I started feeling better. And even by the end of April, to the point where I was feeling better than I had in probably a couple of years. And of course, that prompted a lot of conversations, talks with the doctors and things like that, because I was actually told we planned a little family vacation for spring break, and my doctor said, if you go on that, you will probably die there because of the stress on your body. They were seriously not giving this. Some people are like, well, I was dying, but no, this is real. When one of my doctors came in to our last appointment, he was surprised to, first of all, see me there, and then second of all, that I was feeling good. Like, he didn't understand what was going on.
Can you imagine the doctor's like, I penciled that appointment in thinking you were definitely a cancellation.
This was going to be an open spot. I was going to take a long lunch or something, and now my tea time has to get pushed back or whatever doctor joke you want to throw in there. But they ordered some new scans, and
I want to talk about that doctor's appointment because you and I talked about it, And you were like, well, now wait a minute. Let's not get all excited, because the doctor's like, no, this does it. You don't come back from carcinomatosis.
Right.
This is a deal breaker. Like, this is the end. And you were like, no, I don't want to get excited until I see some scans. And what did he say to that?
He was very much, this is objective information. This is how
the fluid buildup is not happening. That is the objective criteria we needed.
Exactly. And so I have a couple of different doctors, of course. So I've got the primary oncologist, and then this was the palliative care doctor, the one who helps take care of the symptoms and things along those lines. And so he was really pushing that everything, it's carcinomatosis is just advanced cancer. And so it's the same disease, it's just presenting in a slightly different way. Mm-hmm. And so he was convinced that, okay, well, if the carcinomatosis is resolving, then your body is also going to start attacking the cancer because it's the same stuff.
Got it.
And
sorry, keep going. Now you've had your scans.
Yeah. And so we ordered some new scans. What we got back was, yes, the carcinomatosis and the ascites fluid buildup had almost completely resolved. They didn't see evidence of they call it omental caking. But the tumors that had been present in the last scan in February were almost all bigger, and not by a little bit, by 25, 50, one of them 100%. I mean, they grew. And so that was something, I'm kind of glad I didn't go hook, line, and sinker with it's all fine.
Right.
Even though that's what I desperately wanted. That's what everybody desperately wanted. But it meant that I'm not dying immediately, but I'm still slated. I got a stay of execution, but I have not been pardoned. And so started a new treatment. It's a little rough, but it's not as rough as some of the other stuff I've done. And we'll see how that pans out in another 6-8 weeks or so.
Okay. So during this time, you and I visited extensively, but one of the more bizarre conversations we had, and I'm the queen of like, let's have the morbid humor, but this one was super interesting. And I don't want to like be the mean humor, but I'm a little bit tempted. But we essentially kind of topicked that conversation around like the pain of lingering.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I just want to hammer home just how final everything was. Like, you were using verbs in very strange ways that week. You were like, I'm disappearing myself. I'm
obsolete.
I'm obsoleting myself. I'm becoming obsolete. That was it. I'm becoming obsolete right in front of my very eyes. The disappearing man. And so.
Yeah, I was shutting down everything because, I wanted to make. I just watched my father died during this process, and watching my mother deal with, the stuff that he didn't resolve. And I've always been a better planner than my dad was. And I'd already had a lot of this stuff slated, but I'm sitting here looking at it and thinking, I don't want to put my wife through what my mother is going through. And so I sold my business. I paid for the funeral. We were shopping cemeteries. I mean, I had a lawyer, go over my will and all the deeds and titles.
And what is that like? Like,
I don't know. It's surreal for sure, because you are essentially in the process of preparing others for you to die. I mean, you're taking care of your stuff, but if you were to die in a car accident, you wouldn't have all that stuff ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you would worry about. It would be whoever is left, a spouse or a child or a sibling or something like that suddenly has all of this stuff dropped on their lap to resolve. And because of the length of time that I had and just watching this freight train coming at me, it's like, well, it's going to get here. And they've told me it's coming quick. And really for a while it was, I don't know if I'll be here next week, kind of a thing. And it was that way for a month and a half.
I talk a lot about this concept of conflicting feelings. So it's like holding two very difficult emotions at the same time. And so I think it's one of the things that is among the hardest to do. We see it often in death, probably is the most poignant, is when it's like, I'm sad for me, I'm relieved for this person. Like that's the one that's the most obvious. Like you're happy for them that they're not in pain anymore, but you're sad for yourself. And this just dual feeling. And there's other times, you hate your job and then you suddenly get fired and you're like, I'm relieved, but now I'm stressed out because, right. So there's this conflicting feelings. And I would say that you were the epitome of conflicting feelings that week, because you were like, in one part, and I think I kind of had to remind you a little bit, was like, you are doing this sacrificial act of love that is costing you every emotional resource that you had.
Yeah.
And it felt so like you seemed to oscillate between, I want to do the right thing for my wife, and golly, this sucks for me.
Yeah. Well, and two, there was the component of, I want this process to be easy, but I don't want to be forgotten quickly.
Oh yeah.
And you wonder if you take all of the complications out of something like this, it just makes it easier for your spouse and your kid, whatever, to transition into, oh, well, he's just not here anymore, but he took care of everything and we don't have to worry about it. So good on dad. Let's start shopping for a new one.
So can we take a moment and identify your irrational fear in that? Because, oh, good. We get to talk about another thing, irrational fear. Like
that's what you live in the whole thing.
Well, yeah. But the fact that was and now I want to like not joke, but for real, that was your concern.
Yeah,
really?
I had it.
Because I'm sitting here going, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And you're like, no, this is my reality. Stop negating my reality. I'm not trying to negate. I'm trying to say, like, seriously, that was real life.
Well, yeah. So anytime you're dealing with these strong emotions, I mean, I was going to not exist.
Yeah.
On the physical plane anymore. I was going to not exist. And the only thing that would be left of me is memories. And if I took away all of the conflict that comes about when somebody dies, well, then it's not remembered as much. And again, there's a selfish component to that for sure. And I have no doubt that I, would be remembered, but especially when you're in that moment, everything's kind of irrational to a degree. Like, is it rational to be like, well, I'm not going to be here next Monday, so I don't want to plan a dentist appointment? Not really. I mean, to a certain degree, but I'm thinking to myself, do I even need to brush my teeth anymore? Is this, I haven't
thought about that, but yeah.
But
you sleep with your wife, so it's kindness.
I mean, you think about all of those maintenance things that you do for yourself, and it's like, well, why am I doing that now? But you still keep doing it. There wasn't a single day I missed brushing my teeth. I mean, I was dying for 4 to 6 weeks. I'm dying. I was going to be dead next week for 4 to 6 weeks. And I still kept brushing my stupid teeth.
Well, that's going to work out for you.
I know, and it does. But there's those things, and that kind of gets to the title, that it's okay to live. It's okay to plan, even in the most extreme situations. Okay, I don't necessarily believe that I'm going to get past this, but on the off chance that I do, I am not going to burn any bridges. I'm not going to tell my wife or my dad or my sister what I really think of them in the depths of my heart, or any of those things. Like I had a doctor appointment I didn't really want to go to, and I was like, I'll just cancel it. I'm not even going to be here for it. I don't know why I would keep it, but I did. I even talked it over with my wife. Like, I should just cancel this. Let them have the spot for somebody else. And she's like, I mean, you can. And then I didn't. It's like, well, he'll figure it out if I don't show up. But even in that, now that's not to say that I've planned a dentist appointment in the future. Or that there aren't things that I've put off as far as maintenance. But to keep some semblance of normalcy, reality, the possible hope that there is still future. And this doesn't negate that it's okay to die. That's still fine. But it's also okay to live, to think to yourself, okay, what is beyond wherever I'm at right now? Should I break through this? And you may not see a way through this. And there may be statistically me being here right now, the odds of it are insignificant. Like, it happens, but it is exceedingly rare, and in the hundredths of percentiles. I mean, it's just teeny, itty bitty tiny. So even when you don't see a way through, there are things that we should maintain, things that we should do, and things that we should plan, that if we are to get through that, whatever it is, that we aren't left completely flat-footed. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm going to do for, finances, taking care of my family. I still want to participate in that. I need to figure out what purpose looks like right now, because again, I haven't been pardoned. It's just a state of execution. Okay, you're still dying. It's just not imminent. And so now I'm sitting here trying to reevaluate all of these other things that I wasn't prepared for. And some of them are easy and some of them are hard.
So what I just heard you said is you were prepared for death, and now you got to get prepared again for life. Let's talk about hope. We've had some pretty interesting conversations around the idea of hope.
Hope is difficult. And especially that week between that first doctor appointment and getting scan results, it was 10 or 11 days. It was just a little over a week. It's scary to hope. And how much do you hope? And what does that hope look like? And are you the only one hoping that, or are there people around you who are hoping with you? I know one of the things that I struggled with as I started feeling better, I phrased it, I'm feeling better, I'm not doing better, was that imposter feeling where there are some people who have sacrificed time or money or resources to help my family out, either to donate towards my son's education or to bring food over or to do things around the house. If I'm feeling better, what are those people thinking of me? Do they think that I'm a fraud? And even going through that process of, okay, well, what if the cancer was completely gone? Are any of these people going to come at me like, what do you mean? I was doing all these nice things because I thought you were going to die. And now you're telling me you're not. Well, what was that all that for? And, I had multiple friends saying, listen, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll donate whatever it is to deal with your discomfort, your passing, your family. But if all of that, if you're okay, that's fine. I am fine with that sunk cost. Mm-hmm. I love you. I want the best for you.
Well, because since so many of those donors also share your faith, they weren't just giving you time, money, and resources.
Right.
They were also praying.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, of course, they're like, wait, I was on the front row of a miracle.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that's hard on my end too, because it absolutely is a miracle. Like I said, the statistics for it are just astronomical. But then there's also the, okay, but I'm not completely better part of it, that it's like, we got close. Why can't we just go that extra little step there, God?
Yeah, because I want to ask you about when you talk about hope is hard, I know there are people that might hear this that they agree with you 100%. And I also know that while you were going to leave the physical plane, you did not believe that was going to be the end of your existence because of your faith perspective. So is there is that an anomaly? Is that a contradiction to say hope is hard, but yet my hope is in Christ? When we hear the sermons taught about, no, that word hope, that is not the same thing. Is it that, you know what I mean? Speak to that biblical scholar person.
So it's one thing. I don't see there as necessarily being a contradiction. I do have my hope in Christ. I do believe that what comes next is better than what is present. But in the book of Philippians, Paul writes the people of Philippi, and he says, there was a point when I was between life and death, knowing that it was better for me if I were to die and to go to glory, but it was better for you if I remained and taught. And so I chose to stay and teach. Like God gave him the option as to which he got to choose. And so I firmly believe that were I to pass, that when I pass, that my hope in Christ is going to provide me a better situation than where I'm at right now. But I also know that life is going to be better for my wife and son if I stay here. So, the interesting thing about hope is that you have hope in different things, and they aren't necessarily attached to each other. I can hope that I'm having a good day, and I can also hope that my favorite baseball team makes it to the World Series. And those two things, I can have different levels of hope and different levels of expectation for it. And as you buy into whether that hope is being realized or not, that hope grows. And the reason that we struggle so much with fallen expectations is that our hope is bigger than what the reality of life is. And so we have a hope that the cancer is going to be mitigated completely. But the reality was not that. And so that expectation falls short. And so I was trying very hard not to hope too much that it was going to be completely resolved, even though in the depths of my soul, that's what I wanted. That's what I desired. But there have been so many scans that I thought were going to go good that didn't. And you get dropped so many times that you begin to say, okay, I would rather not think I'm going to do well and be surprised than fall down again, than to think I was going to do well and crash.
Is that pessimism?
I mean, you can call it whatever you want, realism, pessimism. All pessimists say they're realists.
They do.
But we're all doing it.
But there's an element to where you've called me out before and said that I had an extrovert's
understanding of
introverts. Yes. And so in this way, I probably have an optimist understanding of pessimist. I would say that I have met realists, and then I have noted for people that they were a pessimist and they tried to tell me they're a realist. And to me, the difference is the misery level. And so, like, when you say, I'm going to try not to get my hopes up because I've been dropped enough times, there's an element to that which does not sound pessimistic. It really doesn't. It feels realistic. Versus somebody who's like, nothing ever works out for me. To me, the people that I label as a pessimist, like, they vocalize their misery all the time. And so I don't know.
Maybe
just an observation. I'm not like,
you're going to upset a lot of pessimists. They were going to be upset anyway.
They probably aren't going to listen to this one. It's okay to live. Oh, that sounds like an optimist thing. What do you think you're learning in this season that can be helpful to those of us that are maybe don't know how soon our
expiration date is?
Expiration date. There you go. I was trying to think of some clever way to say the date after the dash.
Yeah. I think right now, probably what I'm dealing with most is that aspect of how far out to plan and how much to expect from life. And the reality is, at this point, I shouldn't be doing that. But it's a hard thing to shake from going from that mentality that, something's going to happen eventually, but I'm going to plan long-term, to don't plan long-term. The bad is happening now, to going back to, well, the bad is going to come. But you don't know when now. And so just refocusing on what could be, what should be, and planning to live. And I think that's the thrust of the idea here is, okay, it's all right to begin planning out there. It's okay to look at whatever junk you're going through. And it's probably not a terminal diagnosis. But maybe it's a relationship that's busted up, or maybe it's, somebody else's death or something. And you just don't know how you're going to recover from it. I haven't figured it out myself, but I'm trying to look out there and say, okay, now that you're not imminently dying any more than any other human being, you need to start looking forward and planning for the good things that are to come. Because if you don't start planning for good things to come, all you're going to have is the expectation that the bad thing is right here.
Hmm. That's super interesting, because if I were to hypothesize what someone who got a stay of execution, you would think, like cliche wise, you would think, be present every day and like, live in the moment. And so it's fascinating for you to like, no, I got a little too hyper focused on the moment, because the moment where there were so few of them that then like I was just looking, it's almost like you're driving fog. You can just barely see right in front of you. And now it's like the fog is lifting. And so you're allowed to look a little farther on the.
Yeah. You're not trying to make it to the next street sign. You're thinking to yourself, okay, how do I get where I want to go? Because now maybe there's a chance that I get to where I want to go. And that I'm not just going to make it to the next street sign or something along those lines. I've the live every day like it's your last sounds really good in a song. It makes for great poetry, but in reality, it is an absolutely crappy way to live. Because if you did that, you would rack up all sorts of debt. You would travel. You wouldn't take care of your responsibilities. I mean, you might take care of some of them, but I mean, how many of the garbage things that human beings do every day would you still do? Because those garbage things get you not just to next week, not just to next month, but next year and the next 10 years, the next 20 years. You can use the brushing your teeth or the dentist thing. All right. Yeah, you can stop doing that if you're going to die tomorrow, but if you're going to live another 5 or 10 years, you're going to end up with green teeth that are all broken. I mean, it's just one of those part of living a full life. I feel like, at least in my experience, is looking far enough out that you can see good things that you pull yourself to. And if there aren't good things out there that you're pulling yourself to, whether it's a goal like I want to own my own business, or I want to for me see my kid graduate or something like that, I don't see any reason in the moment to take care of those little annoying responsibilities or the hard stuff, because why would you? I talked with my therapist about this, and I said, okay, so there's this pile of baggage that's been sitting there, and I know it's there, but when I was dying, I didn't have to. It's like if I'm going to die next week, I'm just not going to deal with that, and because it's going to make my life easier, the lives of people around me easier. But now, I'm happy that I get the chance to deal with that baggage. But dang it, it's heavy and it's going to be hard. I'm glad for the opportunity, but I also realize that doing that stuff is going to make life more difficult. Dealing with things that in myself or in my relationship or in my professional life. Okay, it's hard to think, okay, what am I going to do for work now? I'm happy to be sitting here having that wrestling with that in my heart. But that doesn't mean I have an answer for it.
Right. Yeah. I love that. The idea of like, okay, the baggage thing, like thinking about you set aside unpacking the baggage, because what's the point? Because you're going to die in days or weeks. And so, yet also I see so many people leave that baggage piled up, sitting there, not dealing with it, because it's going to make their life difficult in the short term. So the very fact that you're considering being willing to wade into something hard. Like you've just endured this very hard thing. I would think human nature is like, now I want to coast, now I want to do something easy, but it's almost like there's an element, what I'm getting from you and what I've seen even is that like easy isn't better.
Well, to quote one of the great philosophical movies of our time, life is pain. Anyone who tells you differently is selling something. It's just, I've always been eat the crust first. Deal with the part you're eating, right? You are being taken care of. You are filling your body with nutrients, but it's not the ones you want. You want the center of the sandwich. You want where all the peanut butter and jelly is piled up, or where the mayonnaise and the turkey and the cheese are. You don't want to eat that where there's just a little bit around the edge and it's harder and it's crustier. But you have crust eaters and you have non-crust eaters. and I recognize that those things are an important part of eating the sandwich of life. Is taking care of that. That doesn't mean that I don't enjoy the center part, but I also know that the center part's a lot better if I take care of the garbage around it first.
Mic drop. That's some good stuff. Bringing some peanut butter and jelly to some life lessons now. That's what I'm here to talk to you about. That's particularly relevant in the season of my life when I have toddler grandsons. So whether or not and when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, there are those of us that choose to continue to be toddler humans and want the crust cut off for us, and not willing to no, suck it up and eat that crust.
Because everybody's mom in the 80s and 90s said, there are poor kids in starving countries who would give their left leg for the food that you eat
across town. We don't have to go all the way to.
Well, but my mom didn't say that in the 80s or 90s.
Indeed, we all had the starving children in Africa. I get it.
So yeah, it's all important. It all feeds us, and that's why. Well, a lot of us go to jobs that we don't like so that we can take care of the families that we love and give them the things that make them happy. And that's just eating the crust.
And it's also okay to have a job you do love.
Well, if you can find that, absolutely. I'm certainly not down on that. And as a youth pastor, I dealt with a lot of teenagers who wanted that job out, as soon as they got out of high school or college.
Sure.
And it's like, yeah, that'd be nice. It could happen, but the reality of that is probably not going to be the case. You don't end up, most people don't end up in the place where they want to stay on their first go around.
Sure. You spent 10 years prepping for your favorite job.
Right.
Right.
And yeah, I was working as a youth pastor and a children's pastor, and I'm sorry for the people who love it. It's miserable work. And if you go to church and you're like, no, and my children's pastor, youth pastor absolutely loves their job. That's possible. It's even likely there are some people who are perfect for that. I was not. For me, it was work and it was hard and I didn't like it. I don't like kids. But that's part of the slog of most pastors getting experience to where a congregation will trust them to lead adults. They want to see that you have a track record of taking care of people. And for some reason, the first people we want 22-year-olds taken care of is our teenagers. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think it's wise. I would think that you would want them to be seniors ministers first. People who could actually provide them with perspective and wisdom, rather than a bunch of kids hopped up on Mountain Dew and hormones. But what do I know?
Okay. We digress.
Sort of, but also not totally.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I like that, because what you're saying is like, because I just don't, well, I don't know. I have a couple different thoughts on this. Number one is that I have a friend that over the last few years has taken jobs that are just different than what I envisioned, that, she's done her whole career. And she said, Angela, I like to eat. I like to have fun.
Yeah.
I like to go to cool activities, have a full life. And to do that, you need money. And in America, the way people do that most commonly is they trade some time for some money. And what I do to trade time for money doesn't always have to be my purpose. It doesn't have to be my passion. It can just fund my lifestyle. And what's interesting is that has given so many people, I've shared her philosophy over the last 6 months, and they're like, wow, you could see them take a deep breath. Like, it's okay if it could be the job that is on your way to your dream job. It could also be the job that for right now, you don't know what your dream job is. I know there's a ton of pressure to find your dream job, find your passion, find your purpose, all these things. And I'm not certain that everybody gets to live in their purpose. And even if you're doing the job that you love, sometimes you still got to balance the checkbook. I'm an entrepreneur and I do love what I do. And I still sometimes gotta report payroll, gotta do the taxes, gotta take out the trash, gotta do the things that have to be done. I still, even in the job that I love, there's still crust eating that is involved in that.
But that's all in the process of, feeding yourself. And we're talking financially, emotionally. Part of purpose is having something to do to produce something. Human beings need that. And so all of those things are the same idea, as far as, okay, well, I'm looking forward to what there is, knowing that what I'm doing right now, whether it's the best thing in the world or whether it's not, I won't say the worst thing in the world, the best thing in the world, or whether it's not, okay, in order to do the things I love, or provide for the people that I love, I've got to be looking forward. And in order to, if I'm living in the moment, if I'm only looking at, okay, well, this is the end and I'm done with it, then you're not going to be planning for those more long-term goals and hopes and ideas. You've got to have the perspective of, okay, I'm going to live through this. I'm going to push through whatever this is. And way over there on the other side is where I'd like to be. And if I don't think about wanting to get there, then I'm probably not going to get there.
Closing thoughts.
Brush your teeth.
Brush your teeth, because you never know.
Now, I'd say, keep yourself in the present, but keep your eye on the future. I don't know whoever's listening to this, I don't know what you're going through right now, and it may be nothing. You may be coasting and happy with it, but maybe it feels like the end. Maybe something in your life is dying. And you don't know what it's going to look like in a month or 6 months or a year. Just remember that those times are going to come. Don't give up. Look to the good that is coming, and focus less on the bad that is happening.
I love it. Thank you so much for spending some time.
To say that I'm happy to be here is an understatement of the year. Yeah.
Understatement of the year. Yeah, for sure. Happy to be here. I told the story on the last podcast, our most popular one so far, that, I stood with you on your last time to church and cried my eyes out. And then yesterday at church, okay, I did love your Easter joke when I was like, I'm so glad you're here. I figure if Jesus can get up, so can I. Love that. I died. Anyway, but then yesterday you got to actually play.
I played with the band yesterday, and it was nice. And it's that normalcy. I didn't get rid of my bass.
Yeah.
Because there was still that eye out there that said, well, maybe. And then I was able to use it.
That's fantastic. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our email newsletter so that you can know when there is a new episode going to drop. We would love. Did you know that you can give us a review on Spotify? Of course, on Apple Music. I know all you Apple. I love all of y'all because more than 50% of our listeners are on Apple. So Spotify, come on, y'all go give us some love. Anyway, have a great rest of your day and hope that you will go and be freaking awesome.